Hi, I'm Laila Hobbs, the co-founder of Social Launch Labs. You're listening to a special edition of the Marketing News Canada podcast, recorded live on-site at SocialWest Calgary 2025 at the TELUS Convention Centre. In this episode, we bring you a conversation captured during the conference with Umair Tazeem, the founder of Embold, a Canadian-based influencer marketing platform, where we discuss building impactful influencer marketing campaigns and the evolving landscape of the industry, including the role of AI. Umair, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Umair, you are the founder of Embold, a Canadian-based influencer marketing platform. And today at SocialWest, you were talking about building impactful influencer marketing campaigns.
Yep, that's right.
Do you want to give us a brief recap about what your speech was?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, I really wanted the attendees to leave with a really clear idea on how to go about building an influencer strategy in-house, and how a lot of times when brands are approaching influencer marketing, they're so fixated on finding a really big influencer to talk about their business, and they don't focus enough on things like making sure it's a quality influencer, having a full-on strategy, building KPIs around it, how to measure that. So that was a lot of what my talk was about. And in addition to that, influencer marketing has changed so much over the last few years, where initially when I was first starting out, it was all about influencer campaigns, which is having influencers posting about your brand. But now there's an entire world of user-generated content. There is ambassador programs, amplification. And so now, like, what a successful influencer strategy looks like is so different. There is now all of those things coming together to build that strategy. So yeah, that was kind of a high-level recap.
High-level recap? I like that. It sounds like the world of influencer marketing has gotten quite faceted and quite complex, as these things do, as they grow in maturity. Can you talk specifically about how Canadian brands can build influencer marketing campaigns?
Yeah, of course. So when it comes to Canadian brands, this is pretty much our entire business, it's a lot more about focusing on local influencers. I think that is a key element. So making sure that when you are looking for influencers, you are having a look at what is the audience that the influencer has a reach to, and making sure that aligns with the audience that you're ultimately looking for. We find that every platform is a little bit different. Instagram is a really great platform for local campaigns, so making sure that your campaigns are aligned in not just in terms of the influencers, but also the platform. And then in addition to that, I think just like any other market, it's a lot of making sure that it's quality influencers. Influencers, they've been able to build up their audience because they create meaningful content and people want to follow that. So making sure that when you are working with an influencer, you are having them create content that is a natural extension of the content they normally create. Otherwise, their audience will see through that and you won't get as much engagement, right? So I think it's all of those things that come together to build a meaningful campaign.
Building on that about having influencers create content that's authentic to their brand, when it comes down to actually creative freedom, obviously if you're a company, you want certain things said about your product, you want certain things created about your product, but the influencers have their own brand and their own creative processes. What would you say is more important? Is it more important to get the exact wording for a product and have the campaign directed around something very specific like that? Or do you find brands are more comfortable with just saying, you know what, I trust this influencer, I trust that they have a good community, I'm going to just hand it off to them?
Yeah, it's honestly finding that balance. One of the things that we find, and it's usually one of the mistakes that brands will make when they're working with influencers, is trying to control that narrative 110%, like to a point where brands are even like rewriting captions for influencers. And just kind of going back to what I said earlier, like their audience knows what the influencer's content is, and they're going to see right through that. At the same time, I understand that for brands, it's not an easy process. Oftentimes, this is the first time they've had somebody outside of their business speak about their business. And so it's about building a process alongside the influencers you're working with. This starts at the briefing stage. So you set out a brief for what are your goals, what are the messaging, what are the objectives, and then you can provide high-level guidelines to influencers, and then you can work with the influencers. You can have them present a concept for what they're thinking about, and you can review that up front. And once you feel good about it, you can have them go create content. And then no matter how good you feel about the influencer's content style, you should always have a review and approval process in place. So even if you know this is the right influencer and you've even worked with them in the past, still making sure that they create content and it comes back to your team, you can review it and then have it go live. But it's definitely a fine balance between taking complete control and also giving influencers that creative ability to do what they do best, which is create content.
You gotta love the influencers for creating content, right?
Yeah.
I think the beauty of influencers that is so unique is, and we see it because we do a lot of business marketing nowadays. When you're creating content for a business, it's very different than when you're creating content as a content creator. And I think when you start to mix the two, there has to be so much trust in that relationship. Let's pivot here for a quick second. So as we know, AI has kind of been the buzzword of the last couple of years. How have AI and influencer marketing been working together? What trends are you seeing in the industry with regards to those two aspects?
Yeah, AI is obviously top of mind for everybody right now in every industry, and influencer marketing is no different. I think the things that I get asked about often, which is AI influencers, everybody's like, are you worried about an AI influencer? Things like that. I think right now, a lot of people look at AI influencers, but it's more so because it's a cool thing to look at. It's like, oh, let me check out this influencer. It's AI talking or whatever, right? It's like, I think it's very different than the way we engage with a regular influencer, which is, oh, I really like the content they're creating and I want to follow that. When I look ahead to where this industry is headed with AI, I think it's going to be, number one, it's going to streamline content creation and being an influencer, like the work that is required behind the scenes of being an influencer. I think it's going to streamline that quite a bit for our content creators. And so that's going to be a key part. When it comes to the advertiser side and how Embold is approaching AI, for us, we are building an agentic workflow where we have 9 agents that we are training, almost as if they're like our team members, where we're training them on very specific tasks. And together, they will streamline the entire campaign management for our clients. So what I mean by that is we have an agent that specializes in building a really effective campaign brief. The idea there is we've ran hundreds of campaigns at this point. We're taking our learnings from what an effective influencer campaign looks like, what a brief looks like, and we're putting that together into this agent. Then the next one is an influencer recruitment agent, which is responsible for recruiting the best influencers for your campaign. Now, the key thing with these agents and AI as a whole is that there is still going to be a core human approval element required. So the AI agent will build a campaign brief for you, but it's not going to post it. Like somebody on your team has to review it and then post it, and then you'll have to post it. Same thing with the influencer recruitment. It will submit influencers to you for approval. It will say, these are the best influencers we found for your campaign brief, but somebody on your team will still have to review that. So the idea for us is that we want to be able to reduce the overhead in a campaign by like 80 or 90%. And we really think we can do that, where a lot of the time that goes into like manually vetting influencers and all of their socials, we believe we've already streamlined that with our platform, but I believe we can take it way further. Same thing with building a campaign brief. We think we can build a really effective winning campaign brief in a matter of minutes, not hours. So these are some of the things that we're doing. And I think this is where the future of our industry is headed, and we're all in on that.
Circling back around to the AI influencers, I think this is such an interesting topic to focus on because AI is everywhere. We're seeing AI becoming more advanced in the video production aspect and the image production aspect. Do you think there is a place for AI influencers in these types of campaigns?
So when it comes to AI influencers, I think there is a place for them in like UGC content, where you want to have content created for your brand, and AI influencers could be a really effective way of doing that. But as an influencer, to be honest, and this could be a terrible take, but I think it's entirely different, where we follow influencers because we connect with them. We really like the content they're creating. I have a hard time seeing like anybody like fall or like truly engaging with an AI influencer the way that they engage with a regular influencer. So that's kind of at least the way that I look at it. So I think that in the future there can be, and there might even be, a complete merge of real and AI influencers where we can't even tell. But yeah, at least that's my take on it.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think we're all having that conversation of how close to being a real human can AI actually get, and how long that's going to take.
Yeah.
I'd like to just wrap up this segment with 2 questions for you.
Sure.
If you were going to give a business who's doing their first influencer campaign one single piece of advice to help create that or make that campaign as successful as possible, what would that be? So this would be the first campaign this company would be doing.
Yeah, to be honest, the best influencer collaborations are those where the influencers are already engaged with your brand. Now, this is not an easy thing, but if you can find influencers who are your customers, users, or advocates for your brand, that is the best place to start. And the easiest way brands can do this is if you're active on social media, put out a call to say, hey, we're building our influencer program. We'd love to have you join our influencer roster, and see if you get any applications. I think a lot of brands are surprised how often there are influencers already engaging with their brand. And that is going to lead to the most authentic partnership and the best type of influencer campaign. I think that's probably where I'd start. I would also make sure that it's not just kind of like a one and done. Like you have to approach this as any other marketing channel, where you can't just expect right off the bat when nobody's heard about your brand to come in and run conversion campaigns. That's not how things work in any channel, let alone influencers. You have to approach it as a awareness campaign, and then as you educate and nurture that audience, then move it to consideration and conversion. So yeah, those would be a couple things. I know you asked for one, but those are 2 things that come to mind.
2 is okay. The more the merrier, right? My next question for you then is, for a company that is experienced, they've ran many influencer campaigns, but they're looking to get a higher conversion rate. They want to get more sales coming. What are some of the advanced tips that you're seeing are working really well?
Yeah, I think when it comes to scaling up a strategy, one is leveraging the different elements I touched on earlier, which is having what we call as flight campaigns. These are larger campaigns that we run alongside your promo calendar. So it's like, might be like a back to school, a holiday campaign, a New Year's campaign, whatever that might look like. So having large campaigns, and you supplement those with an always on ambassador program, where every month you have a few influencers talking about your brand online. In addition to that, having a UGC strategy in place, so that as people are talking about your brand online, you also have people creating content for you that you can use on your own socials. And then finally, having an amplification strategy. So as organic content is going live, you also have the ability to take the top performing pieces of content and amplify them to different audiences. So I think that's what a successful at scale influencer program looks like. And and you'll see it's very different from like running a campaign, which is like one objective and it's time bound. This is more like a year round approach, but this is what the companies that are most successful with influencer marketing, this is how they approach it.
Thank you.
Yeah, amazing.
I'd love to pivot just in the last couple of minutes here to the startup journey. Can you share a little bit about, why did you start Embold? Like what niche did you see in the market that you could fill? And then how's it been?
Yeah, so prior to starting Embold, I was running another advertising business, and influencer marketing was something that came up from one of my clients. My client was asking me to work with a few local influencers, and I naturally reached out to some vendors, try to figure out if this is something that they could do for us. And we got quotes back for like a $10,000 a year subscription, a $50,000 campaign. And clearly like that was not going to work for my client. And so on the other hand, I knew people who were influencers. I knew that they had some followers online. And when I talked to them, they were eager to work, but they were like, yeah, this is not something we ever do. We'd love to do this. And so at that point, I was like, okay, I feel like there's a clear gap here where on one hand, advertisers are wanting to work with influencers, but they can't afford it. And influencers would love to work with advertisers, but nobody's reaching out to them. And so that was the initial light bulb moment for me, where I was like, I feel like I could solve this in a meaningful way. And so then the next step there was like, okay, let me just cold call any advertiser who's going to pick up my call, and just started. It was like the Yellow Pages website, and I just started to cold call different businesses in Calgary. And that's how we got our first client. They gave me a really small budget. It was like $500 at the time. And we were able to find some local influencers, promote their business. At that point, everything was done manually. It was just me, and I was doing it over spreadsheets and emails. Fast forward now 7 years. Of course, like things have changed quite a bit. The big thing is that we realized that in order to do this at scale, there's a lot of moving parts to a micro influencer campaign. We need to build software that can streamline this. So we did that. We have a platform that we built, and now we have a team. It's not just me doing it. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I think it's, of course, it's never been easy, but I think it's, there's just different level. It's a different type of challenge. I think in the beginning, it's like, as a founder, you just want any type of validation. You're like, I just want any client, any budget. I just want anybody to come work for me. You know, you're just almost desperate to have something going and some sort of validation. And then now it's a different set of challenges. It's more so like we're building a team. You have to evolve as a leader. You have to develop your people, build the like there's a completely different set of challenges. And I can't really say which is harder and which is easier. I think it's just a different, just different problems to have. Yes. Yeah.
Growing a business at every stage has good moments and bad moments.
Of course. Yeah,
for sure.
exactly.
It's,
I think the key thing is always like, you just got to show up, right? I feel like, especially, and still feel this now, but especially in the early days, is like, I feel like I was showing up for days and weeks at a time, banging my head against the wall, nothing is happening. And then another day you show up and you move like 20 steps forward, right? And so I think it's just more so like, and you know, this is where it's like, you need to have like optimism, and it's almost like you feel silly doing it sometimes because you're like, clearly this is not working, and any rational person would know there's nothing here. But it's like, no, it's fine. I just put my head down to show up every day. And then eventually, you know, doors open for you. You end up in conversations that you're like, I have no business being here. But, you know, people are willing to have those conversations, and you continue to evolve and learn about the business. So yeah, I think it's one of those things where you really don't know where it's going to end up, but all you can do is show up and do your best, right? So, yeah.
Do you have any advice for an aspiring marketer who is thinking about either going on their own and being solo or starting their own agency?
Yeah, I think the big thing, and this is what helped me out a lot, is like just trying to figure out like keeping your overhead low and just doing it all yourself for as long as you can. Being able to learn, I think, especially now, it's gotten so easy to build new things and to learn new things that I think it's easier than ever to start your own thing, like whether it's an agency or even a software company. So I think it's one, like just diving into AI tools. I know we talked about AI, but I think it's really gonna change everything. And I think if you or anybody can just dive in, learn like different, you know, obviously like the LLM models, the agentic tools, it will take you so far, and you can streamline so much of the work that it will make it like you could do the work that previously took maybe 10 or 15 people to put together just by yourself, because now you have all of these agents that can do really meaningful work, and you can bring that forward to your clients. So I think it's gotten easier than ever, and the future that I see is more where instead of people working at big corporations, I think corporations are not going to need as many employees. So there's going to be obviously a lot of people that end up leaving corporations, but I think it's going to open up a new industry where people are able to provide services on their own to other companies. And I think that kind of fits well with people that are just starting out and want to go on their own as well.
I couldn't agree more. I think we're definitely entering an age of entrepreneurship, per se. I think education and advice for entrepreneurship is out there. It's way more accessible than it used to be. Mm-hmm. And we're hearing more voices like yourself talking about the journey, you know, learning from your experiences, learning from your, you know, your ability to stay consistent, you know, and that unrelenting belief in yourself. So thank you, Umair. This was great. I really enjoyed chatting with you, as I always do. And congratulations again on speaking here at SocialWest and being 7 years into your business. That is crazy.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for tuning into our conversation with Umair Tazeem on this episode of Marketing News Canada. Want to learn more stories from Canada's top marketers? Visit marketingnewscanada.com. A huge thank you to our producers at Social Next Events and our editors at Social Launch Labs.